everyone. Welcome to the show. With me today is Softdrink. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, of course. Pleasure to finally be here. I know we had wanted to connect a while back, but it just didn't quite happen for one reason or another. So I'm glad I could make it for the end of year one here.
Yeah, this will be a fun interview for me, or a fun podcast episode for me, because this one, it's a little more of a discussion type one rather than me grilling my poor guests with hundreds of questions. So it'll be fun to kind of kick back a little bit. And today's topic is 2018 in review, talking about the Shmup events of the year, how things have gone, where we think things are going, stuff like that. And so the first thing I think we should start off with is your experience at Stunfest this year.
Yeah, sure. It's funny. I was actually already interviewed for this by Ann Kay for the Dank Zine, if you're familiar with that.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing something about that. Yeah.
And I think the first line in my response to that was, "It's not about the games." And I think for me, that's really kind of the truest part of my experience of Stunfest. It's really about kind of the people and the community that all comes together for that event. I've had the pleasure of going twice now. I think I missed 2017. I think it was I went to 2015. It didn't happen in 2016. Oh
Right.
no, it didn't happen in 2017, and then I
That's
missed
right.
2016. Yeah, there we go. And then I came back for 2018. And so 2018 was, I think, the first time that a lot of Japanese developers came out. So, we had M2 and some of the Ex Arcadia people and Tenoshimas, and it was amazing to meet them. It was amazing to meet all of the European players, some of whom I've known for quite a while online, some of whom I've met before, and some of whom I was meeting for the first time there.
Yeah.
Obviously there are amazing games there and there are amazing unique experiences there. I mean, getting to try stuff that's still in production or on, new arcade hardware that I didn't even really know existed until then. It's a really amazing opportunity as a player, but more so it's important to me because it's one of the few occasions where this community really comes together in a big way. And for the last couple years, I mean, I'm located in the Los Angeles area, and historically there've been a lot of shmup meets and arcade meetups in LA. But for the last couple
Right.
of years, that had dried up a little bit. They were still happening once in a while, but it wasn't quite the same as it used to be. So it was also really nice just because I didn't have that kind of a big arcade meetup experience at home even for most of 2018.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's funny because the shmup community is really unique in that we are just so spread out from each other, but we're still pretty small. So it's kind of like, yeah, like you're saying, there's only few select things like Stunfest where you could go and meet people like Jamers and Plasmo and stuff like that. Otherwise, just because the continent and the distance, we'd never meet each other in person. So I
Yeah.
definitely want to try and get out. Not this year, but probably the year after that.
You mean 2020 would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I'm really hoping to go back this year if I can. It's always hard for me because my job schedule keeps me extremely busy. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Flying to Europe is no small task for some of us, so.
oh yeah, yeah. It's an amazing time, and there's some really fun stories about that I don't know if I should necessarily share, but people getting a little too drunk. But yeah, really really good time, and it was just also amazing to meet kind of the faces and the people behind the names.
Hmm.
Like there's almost like a mythology behind some of the super players in a way. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
and then when you meet somebody like Fufufu, and he's just like really chill, just like a very relaxed like guy. And the same thing with the M2 staff or the Tenoshimas people.
Hmm.
I think it was Kimura-san, I want to say was his name. From Tenoshimas, having beers with him and stuff. It was really fun.
I know what you're saying because you play White Label or do you play Black Label? I know you play DOJ in some form or another. I don't know which version, but
I played both for a long time. White Label was too hard for me to one all, and I didn't actually get a one all until after Stunfest. Seeing Fufufu play finally inspired me to try to go for the White Label one all.
yeah.
Black Label, I was able to kind of routinely loop it, but I've never two alled it. I've gotten to like 2-3 or something. So it's a game I really love, but I should definitely like put more time into and come back to.
Yeah, I was just bringing that up because as a player of that game, I bet meeting someone like Fufufu in your mind is like meeting some kind of like legend or mystical force, and then you meet him, he's just some guy. I bet that's kind of a crazy experience.
Yeah, and I mean, I had actually commentated his run at the Wasoi Tokaigi in 2016, I think.
Hmm.
So we had done the STG Weekly restream, or not even STG Weekly actually. This was Icarus, I think, who did the restream of it, and then he brought on a bunch of people to do commentary in English on what was happening. And so I was
Uh-huh.
I was running the commentary for the DOJ segment of that run, and so it was kind of a weird full circle thing to kind of do it in person live there
Yeah.
at Stunfest, as opposed to just like over the internet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I definitely did catch that. And I was going to mention that I really appreciated your commentary of, White Label and stuff because all of us watching are probably hardcore shmup players at this point, but still there's a lot of shmup players who don't understand a lot of the subtle differences between the two versions and why playing White Label live is insane in the first place.
right,
So
yeah. Yeah, I hope I was able to provide some useful insight on that. It's I know a lot about some of these games, but I'm not necessarily a great player, so it always feels a little bit nervous for me to try to try to present commentary on these and act as like an authority figure, quote unquote.
sure. Yeah, I think that's just the plight of being a creator or being like a voice because I feel the same way sometimes too doing the podcast and stuff. It's like, yeah, there's definitely people in the community who know way more about the topics at hand than what I do, but someone's got to get out there and say something. So
Yeah, right.
if you weren't around, they're probably just who would have done the commentary, maybe someone else or maybe nothing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
definitely.
I think that's one of the things that's been most interesting about the whole journey. Because I mean, I joined STG Weekly pretty early on when that was kind of first getting started, and I did like the branding for it, and I was a host for a year or so, and it's kind of taken off without me because I've had to step aside to do work and try to keep a hold of my personal life, which is a big struggle. But it's been really interesting to me to experience how that has changed, and how important it's been to try to like just bring some public awareness of how to play these games and put videos out there and see what the response is. I think there's a lot more interest than people are even aware of.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's like trying to be a voice for this genre. It's hard because the people who are good are really, really good, and they're really particular about things.
Hmm.
And
Definitely.
you want to do your best job to try to respect them and respect their point of view, but also make it palatable to a broader audience. So
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying about SCG Weekly and stuff too. There's a lot of people in my Discord who are really hardcore shmup players, and I think I'm starting to drift towards that direction
mhm.
myself. But yeah, like there's times where we'll be having discussions, and I think a lot of them forget that there are lurkers out there who don't really interact with the community, don't really do anything with the community at all, but actually watch SGG Weekly, watch our content, or have an interest in the games because I basically did that for 3 years. I basically lurked around, watched SGG Weekly, watched all the content I could, but didn't really interact with the community beyond that. So I think there's definitely people out there for sure that
Yeah.
we don't know about.
Yeah, and I think it's important to cater to everyone, right? Like you have the people who don't necessarily want to be like super interactive on forums or come out in person to meet, but they still play the games. That's still a huge and important part of this community. So, making content that is accessible to them and that is inclusive to them is just as important as having things like Stunfest where people can come together in person and meet up and, play more casually. I think one of the things that is really important about any game community is that the people have to come together in whatever way they can, and sometimes that means not coming together at all and just having enough of a kind of subconscious exchange of ideas going on.
Right. Plus, you can also think of it as a way to bring people in. I mean, that would be, if you think about it, that'd be insane if some person just picked up White Label or Black Label a month and then flew to Stunfest the next month. Like
Right.
it's a journey, right? They have to go on. They have to invest themselves in the genre and in the scene, kind of slowly over time or over the course of a year or two, 3 years for me. So
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a journey people have to go on, but if you don't provide the stepping blocks to get to the end, that's how we have this huge gap between, the top players are hella good, and then there's a bunch of people who kind of are just picking up the genre, and there's not a lot of people in between.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's a genre where it's very interesting because there's such a huge disparity in skill, especially in
Yeah.
some games like the Dodonpachi games, where a beginner will struggle to do two or three stages, and then an expert player can get both extends and 100 million points by the end of stage one. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mention it because I feel like right now I'm on this journey with Dodonpachi of trying to get a 2-all in it, and I've just been grinding the game for months and months, and I feel like I might be the only player right now that I know of who's between the two. Like, I can easily get, 150 mil if I really wanted to at this point,
Hmm.
but I'm still trying to get that 2-all, but I'm still way behind Bananamatic and Jamers where they're 500 mil
Yeah.
or 500 and 600 mil easily, so it's a weird place to be in, that's for sure. And I don't think there's too many players who get stuck in that space because it's either you got to keep going or you quit. Like being stuck in the middle is kind of hard.
Right. Well, and once you get to a certain point, like the only people that you compare yourself to are the ones that are way in front of you, either because
Right.
either because there's nobody else, or because that's just like the most interesting goal to shoot for.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And that can be really exciting, but also kind of hard to digest and hard to deal with.
Definitely. Yeah, I think so because you know how much grinding you have to do to get there
Hmm.
and how easily if you quit, you could just fall back and basically lose a lot of what you've been working on.
Although I mean, yes, there's a little bit of a learning curve to it, but I found that the genre actually works really well for me as something that I can put away for months at a time and come back to it, and I'm pretty close to where I left off. I'm not one
Oh,
to
that's
one,
good.
but at least for me, my experience has been that I can pick it back up pretty fast.
I haven't quite got to that point just because, like, I don't think I've been around long enough to experience that. I've just been grinding away and haven't stopped yet. But I'm sure it's going to happen to me one day. So
Awesome.
definitely. Yeah, it's good to talk with people who have had longer experience in the genre than myself, for sure.
I mean, I haven't been with it for too long. I've always been interested in SCG, but I think I got most serious about them in my first year of college, which would be about 7 years ago now. Oh boy.
Hey, I'm right there with you, my dude. So no worries.
Yeah.
I was in college for 7 years too.
Oh no, I graduated now, but yeah, it's just weird to think back on it. Like, oh yeah, that was 7 years ago. Oh,
Yeah, I know it sucks getting older.
right. But yeah, it was my last year of high school and my first year of college were when I really started getting into shmups, mostly because it was just really a way to get like a saturated game experience. Like, I only have a half hour or an hour to play something, so I play something super intense and like really
Yeah,
fun.
definitely.
And that was kind of why I got into them. And I think I've come a long way in that time, but I've also taken a couple pretty significant years where I'm very, very removed from how I used to be. I think 2015, 2016, I was streaming constantly, like almost every day. And then the last couple of years, I've just really struggled to make time for it and to make time to play shmups in general. I still love the genre, but it's much harder for me to put the time into it that I would like to because I have so much else going on in my life.
Yeah, I think that's just a natural ebb and flow of certain passions. Like I was that way with other hobbies of mine in the past where I went hard on it for years and now I just kind of do it intermittently every now and then.
Hmm.
But I think it can strike you again at any moment. You never think you will, and then bam, all of a sudden you're like, shit, I need to play shmups now. It can happen.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I still love the games and I'm still super excited every time I get a good chance to play them. Just over New Year's, I was hanging out with Trap 15 and Mosssoft in the Bay Area, and they had kind of an amazing collection between the two of them. So, getting a chance to play like Thunder Dragon 2 and Mushihime Sama Esperade. I played Fantasy Zone 2 for the first time and almost cleared the first, like the easy loop, the
Nice.
light world loop, that kind of thing. It was just so much fun to just get back to those games and play with those games. And then last week hanging out with Frenetic and Neo Gtron and Jep at a small LA meetup. So it's great when I get the chance to just really devote some time to them, devote a day or something. But it's
Yeah,
hard to extract that time from my normal life.
definitely. I could see that for sure. I bet when you were at Stunfest, that probably got you, like you said, I think you said after Stunfest, you got all inspired to play more White Label and stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I wish, looking back on it, I wish I'd been able to go through on, I was so excited to play shmups in general after Stunfest. And I wish I'd just been able to capture more of that excitement and turn that into play.
Yeah.
And I did for a few days, and I did some good streams in the couple weeks after that. But my work really caught up with me there, and I was not able to make that time anymore.
Yeah, that happens to all of us for sure.
Hmm.
And so with Stunfest, talked about all these different opportunities. So I thought, like you said, this is a big year, 2018, because we're having these companies come out that I don't think have had much of a presence before. One being, of course, XR Arcadia. So
Hmm.
I was wanting to hear your thoughts on XR Arcadia this year and where you think it could be going next year.
That's a big question. I
Yeah.
think it's a really really promising platform. Talking to I think I know some things that I shouldn't disclose at this point.
Sure. Sure.
Um, I know some people who are developing for the platform, and they've said very good things about it so far. I know some projects that are in the pipe that I think will really excite people in the shmups community and in the arcade community in general. I think that there's going to be some cool announcements coming out of JPO, or the Japan Amusement Expo.
Yeah.
I think that it's interesting in some ways. As a platform right now, it seems like there's a lot of shmups that have been announced for it, which obviously to me is amazing.
Right. Definitely.
But I'm not completely sure how the commercial viability of that is at this point in time. So I don't know how the finance works or how the business side of it will work. I know that they've promised a lot of things that sound really cool as a collector and a hobbyist. They've said that it will be possible for private owners to purchase the hardware and game licenses, and that it will not require an always online connection. Things like that that
Yeah.
that really open
Hmm.
it up to independent operators or private collectors to have the games in their collections. And that's huge, coming off of things like the Type X and all of
Hmm.
the current arcade systems that, especially for things like rhythm games that require a lot of always online connectivity and online services just to be able to get into the game.
Yeah, I actually got to speak with Eric a little bit for the podcast. I did an interview with him, and he was saying that the big seller for XR Arcadia, as opposed to these other systems, is the lack of revenue sharing and the lack of online,
Hmm.
DRM type stuff. So for me, that's really cool because in my local arcade, there's no way they could afford that kind of stuff. So I'd never be able to
Right,
get my hands on, like the Taito stuff or anything like that. So,
right. I think it's extremely promising. One thing that I am a little bit, I don't want to say concerned about, but like with any new arcade announcement, there's a part of me that's always wondering, when is that going to come back to the people who don't have arcades
yeah.
nearby?
I was actually going to talk to you about that. Yeah, go ahead.
So, things like Akato Blue, what I've played of it, the arcade version is phenomenal. Like really, really good game. And right now, the only way you can play it, if you don't happen to be at an arcade that's planning to get an Exa Arcadia system and that game for it, the only way to play it is on mobile. And I haven't played it on
Hmm.
mobile. It could be great on mobile also. But in the meantime, there is that whole other audience of people who want to play more seriously and want to play more competitively, for lack of a better term,
Hmm.
who don't have access to an arcade, or who don't have access to an arcade that has Exa. So, I think eventually, like we see with a lot of other arcade boards, it will trickle down to the home user after a few years. When revenue starts drying up on arcade, it makes sense from a business standpoint to move it to home consoles or PC or whatever. But I do have some concern that the genre will remain something that is accessible only to a very small portion at the cutting edge. You have a lot of new stuff
Right.
that's coming out, but maybe it's coming out only on arcade. And that really limits the audience that can interact with it on an immediate basis from day one.
Yeah, certainly. That's something I've actually had a pretty long discussion with in my Discord with some people because, yeah, I live in Idaho, so I don't have like a bursting arcade scene, but there's still a possibility Dave and Buster's might get an X Arcadia, so it's possible I might be able to go out and play it, but a lot of people I've spoken to, there's just no way. Just where they live, it's impossible for them to get to an X Arcadia. So I've been trying to think, these days it's so different too, because in the past, that's just how things were done with a lot of the genres I loved, like with fighting games. They came to arcades first.
Right.
And even if they didn't come to your local arcade, we'd say, well, it's important for them to go to arcades so they could get play tested, they could get debugged, they could get balanced correctly, and then they release, Tekken 5 DR or whatever, and we play it on console.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that's going to be quite the same with EXA, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. Although it's interesting you bring up fighting games because one of the big things that comes to mind when I think of modern arcade fighting games is the whole Street Fighter V console first and then coming to arcade later.
Yeah.
So it's almost going backwards in that way.
Yeah, I think the fighting game community with Tekken 7, I was a member of the Tekken scene. I still am, but I'm a little more into shmups these days. But yeah, for a long time I was part of the Tekken community, and Tekken players were pissed about Tekken 7 being stuck in the arcade for years. We were outraged. We're like, this is ridiculous. Bring it to console already. Like, this is so stupid that we have to sit around and wait and watch the Japanese and Korean players play for years, and we're just stuck,
Right.
But now that it's come to console and it's so well done, we're like,
It's
okay,
so
those years in the arcades were super important.
Yeah.
So
Right. So it's really interesting. I think in some ways the arcade has historically been a place where people, they're literally playtesting games as they're being developed or as they're being refined. And sometimes it's not just games, but it's like whole concepts for interface. You look at at a lot of rhythm games with like super crazy controllers or things that are trying to track your body movement or anything like that, and then how that concept might trickle down to the consumer marketplace and in the form of things like Guitar Hero, or comparing like Para Paradise to like motion tracking systems for like Kinect and whatnot. Like the evolution of that technology, in a lot of ways, it originates in the arcade sector as a way for people to engage with it in an entertainment way. And I find that fascinating. But I also think that in some ways it's an antiquated business model, because a lot of, as much as we all malign like day one patches and the necessity of modern games being connected online so that they can receive updates, I think there's also something really important from a developer's perspective about being able to put stuff in consumer hands immediately and then refine it over time, now that the internet and digital distribution are such a predominant means of getting access to games.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the back and forth with that, because in a perfect world, it's definitely a way better system than the old system of just press it to disk, and if there's an infinite in Tekken 5, it's just stuck.
Yeah,
That's
you
horrible.
just live with it. It's just part of the game now.
Yeah. Whereas now they could patch out the infinites and stuff. But then, of course, you get developers who rely on that, and they rush things they shouldn't. But I mean, is that the technology's fault? No.
No.
So.
Yeah, I guess to summarize, I think it's a really promising time for shmups in the arcade. If there can be some kind of resurgence on any platform, be that EXA or anything else, I think that's really cool and really important. But I also think that there needs to be some consideration about when that will come to the consumer, and that it doesn't need to be right away. I just want to know that it will happen eventually, because one of the big problems looking back on the history of arcade shmups is that only some of them ever end up making it to the end user in the proper format, like a legal format. I mean, I think we're getting to the point where pretty much everything is going to be playable, but the emulation is a whole separate topic.
Yeah, and even stuff like, let's take Dodonpachi, that's a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that came to home consoles, but is that really Dodonpachi on your Sega Saturn? Not really, right? It's not the game. The scoring system, like, the port is just not faithful to the arcade experience in it by any means, so...
Mm-hmm. But then, I mean, on the topic of ports, like, there are always still those companies that do ports really, really well.
Yeah,
like M2
definitely.
being first and foremost in my mind, where, I mean, their stuff is always incredibly good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So with Exa, maybe I remember when I was speaking with the CEO of Exa, he was talking about how really they can have simultaneous releases, like they can release the game on Exa and on Steam or whatever else
Hmm.
PS4. But his requirement is that the Exa have a special version that's exclusive just to Exa.
Uh-huh. And I mean that makes perfect sense from a business standpoint.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking maybe what could be an interesting thought is that maybe after a time, like not right away, obviously, but after a few years, maybe the Exa version could be released as well
Uh-huh.
to home people.
Yeah, some kind of like a timed exclusivity.
Yeah, I think that would give people who will never play an Exa more of a reason to be interested in its existence because, like, let's say Akata Blues Exa mode comes out 4 years later or whatever, if there is a home release of that, but and then people could play the refined arcade tested Exa mode and stuff. So
Hmm.
I think that might be a cool idea.
I think just kind of like transparency about that, like, yeah, we want to release this game for home users in 3 years or something.
Hmm.
Instead of just like, yeah, we might release it for home use eventually.
Someday.
Eventually.
Yeah, definitely. If people kind of have some assurance that the game's coming out, they'll have more interest in it than
Right.
if it's just going to maybe never come out kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to Exa. Another cool thing that happened at Stunfest wasn't there a Fire Lancer demo you got to get your hands on?
Yes. And actually, I it's not the first time that I've played that demo, because I'm good friends with Trap 15, so I've tested a few different versions of Fire Lancer, including some of the arcade hardware builds that he made that work on a cab instead of on WonderSwan.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think it's a really really cool game. It feels really balanced and really tight. It controls well. I don't know that it's going to appeal to everyone, but I also don't think that's the target. And I think that it's doing a lot of the things that I understand that it wants to do really really well in being this kind of very classically styled, more traditional and challenging shoot 'em up. And the aesthetic choices that they're making, especially for such limited hardware. I mean, the WonderSwan
Yeah.
has some amazing hardware limitations, and they're doing some very sophisticated stuff to try to get around those. So I think it's a really really cool game, and I'm looking forward to its full release.
Yeah, and I actually got to speak with Trap last week. That's actually the next episode that'll come out, but we were talking about, he was saying that there was a special arcade build just at Stunfest that, yeah, runs on a cabinet and everything. So that sounds really cool to experience.
Yeah, it's great. I was shocked at how well the game played on cabinet. Like it translates over so well from the WonderSwan experience. And personally, I prefer it on cabinet. I think he probably would not like me saying that, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. On the topic of games that are somewhat unaccessible, though, I think that's a really interesting game to bring up because I think it's an amazing project, and like the amount of thought and effort that have gone into making it what it is really spectacular. But the end goal is to release it on a platform which is completely dead and completely unknown to most people outside of Japan. Um,
Hmm.
and it's sort of like intentionally unaccessible to a lot of people. And I think, Trap is very okay with that, and more power to him. I'm not saying that's a bad decision at all, but I do think that it brings in a valid criticism from some people that I've heard is like, well, why should anyone care about this game if we're never going to be able to play it?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the plan is for that. He's hinted that there might be ways for people who aren't interested in the physical release to be able to play it on PC or something. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of comes back to the conversation we were just having about how can you get people to remain excited about something if they're not going to be able to experience it themselves.
Yeah. And I did, when I was speaking with the CEO, Eric, I asked him, since it's the MVS, like it's styled after the MVS, I asked, will there be an AES equivalent? And he said, maybe. Kind of.
Oh.
Can't say for sure, but that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool, actually. I hadn't heard that. That's new.
Yeah, that was a maybe, but that would be a cool experience. Like if it was a slightly cheaper version, obviously, than the full arcade release of it that people could get and play the games on, that'd be really fun.
Although, are we going to end up with like an XXIII forums later? Are we going to have Exa drama? Because that would
probably
that'd be next level.
Gotta have the drama, my dude.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Any other memories from Stunfest that we should definitely know about? As someone who actually got the chance to fly out there and experience it in person, that's really awesome.
Yeah. I'm really glad I was able to go. It was not cheap, but I'm glad that I put that down and made that time. I was really nervous about it. I have a lot of, I don't want to say anxiety, but like discomfort sometimes with my role in the Shmups community, and I feel often like I don't really belong. And so going,
why is that?
I don't even know. It's I have a lot of like imposter syndrome stuff. It's weird, whatever, personal issues. But
do you think it's just being in the spotlight? Because sometimes I get that too, running this podcast. Like after I did, I think it was after I did the Aquas interview, episode 10, and a lot of people were giving me all this positive feedback from it and stuff, and like I was getting a little more attention than I expected. I thought I'd be all just happy, but then I was like, oh shit, what have I gotten myself into? This is crazy. Like,
yeah, I think that's part of it for sure. Yeah. But yeah, for a while I was considering just not even going, even after I'd bought my tickets. It was just like, oh man, I don't know if I feel well enough to do this. But it was an amazing experience. And again, it's about the people really more than anything else. Like nobody there expects you to be like a super player or anything. You can be as good or as bad as you want. I mean, there are people coming up and playing the games who have literally never played a shmup before, because it's not just a shmups event. There's all kinds of other arcade games there. A little bit later, you might have like the best player in the world playing that game, but it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's not exclusive. It's not elitist in that way, and that's something else that's really important about it, I think.
Definitely, and if it was just a community of super players, it'd be like 5 people. So
right,
you can't be too bad about that.
Right. I guess one of the other things that I really enjoyed at Stunfest was the XXIII PS4 like demo version they had. They had the arrange mode of that available for people to try, and they were running not a scoring contest, but like a can you get to Doom contest.
Nice.
And the only people who actually did that were me, Jamers, and Airpo. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome, dude.
To be one of those people and to be up next to those guys who are like extremely good players who I've looked up to for a really, really long time. So that was cool.
That's definitely impressive, because doesn't it throw like Ura patterns at you rather than just the first loop?
I don't know if they're Ura patterns, but they're definitely second loop patterns from some of the bosses. So
yeah, definitely no easy achievement by any means. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. They did something like that.
Yeah.
I also liked that they did the XXIII. Okay, it's pronounced Destiny, but I kind of refuse to say that.
Destiny.
Destiny. So I'll just call it Death Tiny, even though that drives people crazy. But
all right, I like that.
They had this really awesome scoring competition that Iconoclast. I actually got him on a few weeks ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. That
That's
was really cool.
that's awesome. We've been trying to get him on STG Weekly forever. Good for you.
I don't know how I swung it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Our shared love of Ninja Gaiden must be it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that was really cool to see his progress because I got the game early too, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm like the only Westerner with the game right now, so I'm gonna sneak in a nice high score. And then like hour two, all these insane scores are popping up. I'm like, damn it.
Yep, of
One of them being Iconoclast, and the other was Banana-matic. But
course. Of course, it's those two.
yeah, it was really funny because he had his name as Garega Dad. I'm like, who is this Garega Dad? Just kicking my ass.
Was that Bananatic or Iconoclast?
Yeah, it's Banana-matic.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, but I really liked how they did that scoring competition because it brings excitement for the players too. You know, it's not just like it kind of emphasizes how the games are, how you can play them beyond just playing them for survival. It emphasizes that people can play these games for score and it can be exciting to watch people competing with each other. So,
Right. Well, I think that's another thing. It's a little bit off topic, but from kind of a developer and community building perspective, how do you communicate how shmups are supposed to be played, or supposed to be played at like a competitive level?
yeah.
So many of the core like gameplay ideas behind shmups kind of they exist without a lot of context. Like if you just buy one of these games off the store shelf, things like 1cc's or trying to go for high scores, it's not something that the game inherently communicates in a very good way. And I think that that's something that a lot of developers over the years have taken different stabs at how to address that problem. Doing things like running these tournaments, you know, you see how other people are playing and you can see their replays and you can see their scores and you have a very real
Yeah.
incentive to try to watch that and try to learn from them. I think events like that are really important to try to build a sense of community, but also just to try to teach people a little bit more, kind of indirectly, how to go about learning the game.
Yeah, definitely. Because I actually did that with Death Tiny because when I sat down to play the game, I had no idea how the scoring systems worked because it's pretty different from regular Ketsui.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, I'll just watch some of the higher scoring replays to figure out what's going on here. So, yeah, that's a great system to include in the port is the replay system they included and the online leaderboard. That's really nice. And I think that's something that more indie shmups should try to strive for. I mean, if they can't do it, but at least try for it. Because speaking of Fire Lancer, when Fire Lancer released their demo, they had this really fun, and it's still going on now, but probably not by the time I air this, but this really fun scoring competition.
Yeah.
I think that was a really cool idea. I think more indie shmups should definitely try and emulate that example for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not the only ones. I mean, I remember when Blue Revolver was in testing phase, they had some demos that they released, and there would be a challenge. You know, I think it was get 20 million points, and your name will be in the credits.
Oh, that's cool. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, and it was pretty short. It was like a week or something. And so, you know, it's a way to incentivize people to play test their game, but it's also a way to get people to kind of share strategy and get talking about the game and get people who are kind of invested in the game. Like, oh yeah, I played it enough to get in the credits and I got to buy it, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like had I been like around for that release, I would have been working my ass off to get in those credits just because it's such a cool concept.
Yeah, it's a wonderful concept, and it's a really solid game. Also, you know, they've done a lot of iteration on it, and every version of it I've played is great. It's always a little bit different, but it's always great.
Yeah,
I guess that was another thing I did at Stunfest was I finally cleared hyper mode in Blue Revolver.
nice. Did they have a cabinet there as well?
They did. Not a
That's cool.
cabinet, but they had like a 45 or 50 inch plasma TV on its side and an arcade stick in front of it.
Nice.
Pretty sweet, actually.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's also a really cool game that I think it's one of the developers that comes to mind when I think about people who are trying to communicate this idea of like how to play games correctly,
Yeah.
or at least in the way that the developer intends. Because I'm not necessarily of the belief that there's a correct way to play games, but there is kind of a developer intended and community intended way.
Yeah.
And you know the things that Donbo is trying with like the mission mode, or with the couple kind of tournaments that they've run, or scoring competitions that they run. I think those are all really exciting and heading in that direction in a good way.
Yeah, and I think hopefully as we get more, like if we make that more of a standard with, the indie shmups or like the more, I don't know how to say it, like the more premium indie shmups or the ones that are a little more like community focused.
Mhm.
I think if we get that to be more of a standard, then when people outside the shmup community go to review the new indie shmup or go to review stuff, they'll like have a more, I guess, connected experience with the community rather than, you get the reviews where they're like, yeah, the game's 3 hours long.
Beat it in 30 minutes.
You can beat it in 30 minutes or yeah, and all that stuff. So
It's like, what? Why would you pay $20 if you can beat this game in 30 minutes?
Yeah. I thought of a really troll / funny mechanic just for those reviewers where like a reverse rank system where the more credits you put in, the harder the game gets.
Oh,
so they're like, this game is freaking impossible to clear.
That's kind of fun. I don't know.
I don't know if that's wise, but that'd be funny.
I'm honestly like, I would be surprised if there's no game that has ever done something like that. Because like from an arcade perspective, that's like a very easy way to try to get people to spend more money.
Trap said that Batrider does something like that.
Well, some of the Yagawa games do something like the more coins you have in the machine at once, the faster the rank builds up.
Right, that's what it was.
Yeah. So like if you put in 3 or 4 credits at the start, it'll just raise rank like over time more rapidly, which I think is amazing and awful, but
it's going for the shmoney right there.
Right.
That's funny. That seems more of like a let's get the money mechanic than a gameplay mechanic necessarily. But
well, I think rank in general is really fascinating as a concept because I think from a business standpoint, from like a game design standpoint, it is a decision that is almost entirely made because it will earn more money.
Definitely.
But coincidentally, it also makes the game itself more compelling for players once they're at a certain skill level.
It's a fascinating concept.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by that from like a game design standpoint. Like, are there other ways that you can make decisions that benefit you as a developer financially, but also benefit the player by making a more compelling game?
Yeah, it is interesting because the thing about, I was actually talking with Iconoclast about Death Tiny.
Mm-hmm.
There's an interesting mechanic in that mode that, since it's an arranged mode, it's not obviously going to come out in the arcade, so they didn't have to worry about that sort of thing.
Right.
So they could take a different view of how are they going to balance the difficulty for newer players versus expert players.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think they came up with a really cool idea. So how it works in a Death Tiny mode is that when you get a crap load of extends. And so when you first play the mode, you're like, wow, this is really easy. Like, this is almost super easy type thing because you get 20, I don't know how many, but like 10 extends, like a large number of extends. So that newer players, if they're just getting killed over and over, they can keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
But for expert players, what you do with those extends is you suicide them to build hyper and to keep your chain going.
Mm.
So yeah, so like those extends, you're cashing them in for expert players constantly to keep your hyper and stuff going. So they're not making it easy. They're like, you use them for scoring. But then if you're just a newer player trying to get into the mode, you can use those extends for survival. So I think it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I love stuff like that. A lot of the Yagawa style games have something similar where, I mean, the Ibarra is the one that I'm the most familiar with, where when you're playing the game just for survival, you're able to get more extends and use those to just get further in the game. But when you start playing for score, there are strategic ways that you will suicide in order to get better scoring opportunities. So it's a really interesting feedback loop where like the better you're playing, the more you're dying, but also the higher you're scoring so you can die more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. And you can tell, yeah, it's definitely intentional in some of these games. So we talked about some of the good things that have happened in 2018 in the world of shmups, but I feel like there's also some crappier type stuff that went down this year that I think we should cover, or at least I should cover, because
Yeah, definitely.
some of them involve me in some way. So,
Uh-huh. Sure.
so I think the first one we have to start off on that I feel like didn't get as much attention. Maybe I'm just out of the loop with certain groups of people and stuff, but I feel like something that didn't get much attention at all is the Emu Paradise getting shut down. I feel
Oh,
like that's kind of a big freaking deal, but
yeah, that's a big deal.
yeah, so I guess I'm sure you all out there listening have heard, maybe not, I don't know, have heard kind of the events surrounding what happened, but basically Nintendo got decided, all right, enough of these ROMs, and so they started going after not Emu Paradise actually, but other ROM sites and threatening these huge lawsuits. And Emu Paradise, from what it says on their website, kind of got cold feet, and they're like, forget it, we're out. So the website's still there, but you can't download any more ROMs or anything like that anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting. Oh no, no, go ahead if you have more to say, sorry.
Though I just had the last part I had to say is that for the shmup community, that's kind of a big freaking deal because I know people don't like to talk about emulation and stuff because, you know, all that, but for shmup players, I mean, emulation's like a big, because a lot of these games, like the one I played on Apache, you gotta emulate it to play it correctly. So
Mm-hmm. That was kind of what I was going to get to is like, on the one hand, I completely understand from a legal point of view, it's wrong and this stuff shouldn't be out there and the companies have every right to police this stuff. I get that. On the other hand, emulation, especially for the arcade community, but for gaming in general, it really serves a need. You know,
oh
games
yeah,
games are historically terrible at preserving access to old stuff. Backwards compatibility
definitely.
it's a step in the right direction, but it's not something universal. It's not something that necessarily applies to every game or every console generation. And it's a big problem, especially for arcade, because there's so many arcade games that are like, that were released in arcades, but then never received a home port or
And
received a
never
home
will at
port
this
like
point.
5 generations ago, where
Yeah,
they released 1,000 copies and like half of them are still working and they're on like TurboGrafx or something random like that. Like, okay, who's going to be able to play that?
definitely. Or like the ports themselves are just major step downs from the arcade version to begin with.
Right. Yeah, or they're just not accurate. Yeah. So I think emulation is extremely important from like a historical and like preservation standpoint, but also from the standpoint of players who want to get the best possible, the most authentic experience possible, but who, can't afford or can't find, or literally there is no possible way to obtain these games.
Yeah. I actually wrote an article about this that ended up being kind of controversial, but what I was saying is that with things like the speedrunning community and stuff, the choice of playing on original hardware is kind of always there. Like, there's enough Super Nintendos and copies of Super Mario 3 out there that even if they get kind of hefty, you could still get yourself Super Mario 3 on a Nintendo or Super Nintendo or whatever. But with the shmup scene, the number of Dodonpachi PCBs isn't is
Right.
hella low, even for people who are extremely dedicated to the genre. And there's just going to come a point, and maybe that point is very close, where PCB just isn't viable. Like, people can't use that as a way to play these games anymore. And so there's only one alternative, and that's emulation. So,
Hmm. I mean, yeah,
I mean, what else are you going to do?
short of
I
some
guess.
perfect port for DDP coming out, which
Right.
itself would probably be emulating as opposed to like porting over the code manually. Yeah, and even just talking about DDP, like that board, I remember when I bought my first cab and when I bought my first PCB, DDP was maybe like $600 or $700 was like the market price for it, and now apparently which is only like 4 years later, it's over 1,000 easily, potentially
Yeah.
like 1,200, 1,300. Like that is a lot of money to put into a game, especially if it's a game that you don't know you'll like. I mean, the big thing with emulation for me has always been discoverability, right? Like
Yeah,
you
definitely.
see a video of this game, you're like, oh, that looks cool, but it's not like you can just go to the local used game store and pick it up.
Yeah.
If your only way to ever try one of these games was to spend thousands of dollars on a PCB and cabinet and get all that stuff working and maintain it, whatever, nobody would do it. And that's not just a problem
Yeah,
for
definitely.
shmups, that's a problem for arcades and looking in a broader scale for gaming in general. Because even older console games, even stuff from like the PS2 era, is reaching a point where it's hard to get a hold of, and it can be very expensive.
And it's funny because a lot of these companies, like Nintendo, like Sony, who get hella pissed off about emulation in the past and throw these lawsuits at these emulation companies and stuff, end up using emulation anyway for
Oh
their
yeah.
products later on. So especially PlayStation with their PlayStation Classic or whatever. I remember there was this huge lawsuit back in the past of Sony going after, I can't remember which emulation project it was, maybe Bleem, I can't remember what it was, but yeah, and then they turn around and use the PlayStation, use PSX for your,
Yep.
it's stupid. So how can you really take these companies that seriously when they're willing to just, use the work of other people anyway?
Yeah. Yeah. It's bizarre.
I'm a little more pro emulation, I think, than the average person, so
Oh, agree. I same way. Yeah.
so yeah. So I don't know. There's certain people that it bothers them the idea since it's not exactly in the best legal practice, but I think it's just going to come down to a point where legal or not, it's just going to be your only option anyway.
I think for me, if it were more accessible without emulation, I would think that there would be a firmer, I would be able to take a firmer stance against emulation if everything were equally accessible in the current
Right.
market. Like if you could go and buy Dodonpachi for $30 or something for a download copy on PS4 right now, and it would play the same way as, a perfect
Right.
PCB, like 100% arcade accurate, whatever. That would be a very different conversation. But as it stands, the only ways to play that game are spend hundreds for the Saturn version that isn't accurate, spend thousands for the PCB, or obtain it illegally and emulate it. I mean, I'm gonna say emulation is absolutely the way to go in that case, at least for most people.
Yeah, and it's funny because whenever people talk about the legality problems of emulation, they want to throw the whole concept out the window. But why doesn't we just take a model of Cave sells you the ROM? I would be cool with that. Like
Yeah,
if I bought the ROM from Cave, then it's all good and just, ran it how I normally run it, but pay a little money for it. I think they'd run into a lot less of this issue.
I mean, I think that model has some legal ramifications of its own that make it a little more
Sure.
complicated.
Sure.
But I mean, yeah, in principle, I think something like that is a superb solution to this problem. Or even like one of the things that I was just reading this morning, and I don't know how accurate this is because I have not had an Xbox console in the last couple generations, but I was reading
Oh,
that
yeah.
Microsoft's approach to backwards compatibility in the last couple generations has actually taken a really important step, which is like if you bought a 360 game and you have like evidence that you bought that 360 game, you can just play it on their new consoles, like through the backwards compatibility. So like you have a license for that game that just persists indefinitely. If there were a way to do something like that, that would go a huge way to, across all consoles right now. That would go a huge way towards preventing this problem from coming back up in the future.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you have certain, like if you have Ninja Gaiden Black, I believe, which is one of my favorite Xbox games,
Hmm.
if you put that in the, Xbox One, it'll say, okay, here you go.
Right.
But if you have a PS2 game, Red Dead Revolver, and you put that in the PS4, it's like, no, you have to buy this again.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool model moving forward. Yeah, especially with the older consoles who are stuck on standard video where they don't have HDMI and
Mhm.
our monitors are moving away from standard video. Like for me and a lot of people who are retro gaming, shmup enthusiasts, whatever, we have CRTs, we have ways to play those consoles, but like for my brother, he doesn't have a way to play that. If it doesn't have HDMI, it's like
Right.
might as well be a VCR to him. So
Right. And that's a whole other thing. It's just like the technology is moving on. So,
yeah,
a lot of games, even if you can, like, even if you want to go the legit route to play Dononpachi, you want to buy the Sega Saturn and you buy a Saturn, you buy a JP Saturn, or you hardware
yep,
mod your Saturn or whatever, so it'll play JP games. You buy Dononpachi, so you're down like $300 or something for that, probably. Maybe more. I don't know how much that goes for these days.
I don't know, but it's 100 at least, if not more.
And then
Probably like 200 or something.
do you even have a way to play that? Like, do you even have a way to hook that up to a display anymore? So if unless you happen to have a CRT just laying around or find one in good shape, then you might be looking at like buying a upscaler or something, which is
Yep,
another
that's
huge expense.
add more lag while you're at it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you either add more lag or you get something that's very complicated and very experimental and most people don't even know exists. Like there's
Hmm.
products like the OSSC which claim
Yeah,
to be lag free scaling, and my experience seeing them at events and such has always been that they work very well, although I don't personally have one. But you have to wait in a queue for like a year and a half to get one, and it's
yeah.
very expensive.
I was actually on that queue with that mailing list. A few years ago, I was really into using upscalers and stuff.
Hmm.
And then I bought a CRT, and then I just canceled my pre-order. Like, forget it. I'll just play on my CRT. I don't
Right.
need to spend hundreds of dollars to
But even
upscale.
CRTs are like that technology itself is dying. The
Yeah,
number of people that you can find that can actually repair a CRT if it starts to be breaking down. There's some problems that are trivial to fix, and there's others that are much more complicated. There's some things where you can very easily find replacement parts, and there's others where the replacement parts are more expensive than just buying a new one.
yeah.
Um,
I've done that myself. I've got a few CRTs that had like dead zones and stuff.
mhm.
And it's just like, okay, sorry, buddy, you gotta go. I don't know how to fix you.
Yeah. Well, and there are definitely some people out there, and one of the things that I like a lot about the community is that if you reach out, you can always find people who either they know how to do it or they know a guy. So in that regard, things are pretty nice if you really want to get into collecting and maintaining the old hardware. But at some
Yeah,
point, it's gonna develop problems. It's gonna die just because that's what happens to these things. A lot of these, even PCBs, are going to develop problems or die eventually. I mean, some of this hardware is
yeah.
20, 30 years old.
And imagine you just spent 2 grand on it. I'm sure you're not super excited to
Right,
like run it if you feel like you need to preserve it.
right. Although, I mean, that gets to a whole other thing, which is like, what's the point of buying these games if you're not going to play them?
Yeah,
And I have a lot of personal things about that. I'm not a big fan of the whole like sealed game collecting or whatever. But
yeah. Well, me neither. Definitely not.
that's a very big tangent.
Well, I remember here's a shmup one because I used to have the Ikaruga GameCube port,
Okay.
and for kicks I was like, I'll buy it again because I lost it or gave it to a friend or something.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna pick that up again, and I went on eBay and they were still kind of pricey, but then I saw sealed Ikaruga for like $500. I was like, okay, this is retarded. What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm definitely all about playing the games, and there comes a point where you drop $300 on the Sega Saturn version or whatever, $200 on the Sega Saturn version of the game, and you realize this is just an inferior game.
Hmm.
Is it really worth that money? I'd say no, but that's me.
Right. Well, and it's interesting you bring up Ikaruga because I think in some ways that is like the most accessible shmup. Like almost without exception, if there is a platform, you can find a way to put Ikaruga on it. If it's come
Yes.
out since that game came out.
That's an interesting point you bring up because I actually had this conversation with people in my Discord this year. I was wondering, why is Ikaruga so popular? I mean, it's a great game, and I get the mechanic is really cool too, the polarity mechanic. But I was saying, okay, there's lots of shmups out there that have, even Radiant Silvergun, for example, have
Right.
like really gimmicky or really catchy type mechanics that people would love. Why is it Ikaruga that seems to have like this massive, widespread recognition beyond shmup players? Like, why is it this game specifically?
Because our frothing demand for this game increases.
Right, exactly. I've been thinking like, why? Because there's so many hype mechanics in other shmups too that could get people excited.
Right.
But I never thought about it until you mention it now. Like, it's on everything. Maybe that's one reason. Like, it's everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's a few things. It's a tiny game. If you ever looked at the install size of it, it's I think even the Steam version is like 100 megs or something. Like it's a very
Yeah,
small game. It's very easy to port to a lot of different things because it's the small size makes it doable on things like mobile phones or handheld consoles or things where space is inherently a limited problem.
yeah,
It's not a I think it's a very simple game for people to understand. it's enough like a basic shmup that they get it instantly, and they don't have to like fight against learning a mechanical system or learning a scoring system or being overwhelmed by thousands of volts on the
Right.
screen at once or anything like that.
Yeah.
It lets people feel powerful because they can be invincible to a certain type of shot. It seems like something that's more forgiving, even though I think in many ways it's one of the least forgiving shmups I've ever played.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's just like stylish enough and edgy enough that it leaves an impression on people. So I don't think it's like a perfect game, but I think it checks a lot of boxes, and it came out at like the right time.
Yeah.
You know,
Dreamcast.
the Dreamcast and the Naomi for the original release, but then it had that localization to GameCube, and I think that's really when it like became a thing in kind of a global consciousness as opposed to just in like Japan. Because I still remember what was it like Ikaruga.couk I think was like the fan site that existed for that, and there was a lot of international interest in that game, and that sort of coincided with the GameCube port coming out.
Yeah,
So for whatever reason, that game at that time just hit it with people. And in a lot of ways, I think it's been really good for the genre as a whole,
definitely.
regardless of your personal thoughts on that game. I know there's that whole like, is it a puzzle game? Is it a shmup? Whatever.
Yeah.
I think it brought a lot of people into the genre, and I'm probably one of those people because that was one of the first shmups that I started taking seriously and started trying to play for score because I saw replays, back in like the 144p YouTube era. I saw replays of people doing score runs, and I was like, wow, this looks fun. So,
I wouldn't say it was like a game that got me into the genre or anything, but it was one that I was aware of when I wasn't really aware of shmups that much. I
mhm,
was like, oh yeah, Ikaruga, I know that. I have that on my GameCube, so
mhm.
yeah, if it reached me in the dark ages where Mark didn't care about shmups, it has some sort of power. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, it sucks the whole Emu Paradise thing getting shut down because man, even for me personally, I've been like, ugh, because there's certain things that I need to grab
Oh yeah,
or like I remember they used to have Ketsui Range just
yeah.
on there.
They had a lot of stuff.
Yeah, like they had like a lot of trap stuff on there where
Uh-huh.
you could just get the ROM, you didn't have to do all the patching and stuff, and so now it's like I was trying to recommend my friend to play some Ketsui Range. He's like, okay, how do I do this? I was like, okay,
Uh,
so you need to. Okay, here's the instructions. Where before I could just say, I think you can get it on Emu Paradise.
right.
So
Although I do
just
think
stuff like that's a shame.
I don't know if his like terms actually allow you to host the ROM itself, but anyway.
Filthy Emu Paradise.
No, I mean
Well,
I
they're dead now, so they can't get in trouble with him.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, it is a bummer. I mean, I think they did a lot for allowing people access to kind of the history of games and the breadth of games that otherwise they wouldn't have had access to. And they are not the
Yeah,
only ROM site by any means, although I think that there's been a few others that have been hit. But
yeah.
I know for me that was always one of the first places that I would look.
It was always my go-to because when you go to other ROM sites, like a lot of them, you feel like you're almost going to like a porn site or something. They're so like shady and
Oh
like they're
yeah,
throwing ads at you constantly.
yeah,
Where Emu Paradise was just like, here's the ROM. It's just
yeah.
so different. So
Well, and it was super nicely categorized too. It's like, oh,
yeah,
do you want to search by name or by alphabet or by console or like there were a lot of almost meta like ways that things were linked to each other, and there were even
yeah,
sometimes some good like suggested similar games. I don't remember exactly, but it was something like if you were to try to get like Esperade, then it would link you to like other cave games in the related games section.
that's how I discovered a lot of my favorite shmups was with that through that site. So
I just think that like the service that it provided for the arcade and emulation community in general really can't be overstated. And regardless of the legality behind it,
yeah,
thank you for your years of service.
definitely. You kind of got the impression when I went there that it was about, on some level, preserving these games. It wasn't just about throwing ads at you and stuff like that. So, and it's interesting that they weren't actually. You would think they would have, though they did remove Nintendo games a long time ago. So maybe that's why Nintendo didn't go after them directly. But yeah, it's a shame for sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like this trend is not backing down by any means because
No.
this year has been the year of Nintendo and other Japanese companies cracking down. So Another interesting topic that I thought would be something I wanted to talk about that happened this year is Arika cracking down on the Tetris Grandmaster
Oh yeah.
videos and stuff like that. Because I don't know, I had never heard of something like this before other than Nintendo doing it. So apparently, what's been going on, what happened is that the details for me are a little fuzzy. So if you have any clarifying details, that's for sure. But Arika decided that they would not allow certain videos of Tetris Grandmaster to remain up on YouTube if they didn't meet their criteria. So what ended up happening is a lot of the tournament community's videos got taken down, and I think some YouTubers like Kevin DDR and stuff were afraid to host the videos and stuff anymore. So it's kind of a huge deal for the Tetris Grandmaster community.
Yeah, I don't know details specifically, but I have been following along kind of tangentially because I'm friends with Kevin and Aperture Grills and some of the other people who are prominent in that community.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a really bizarre saga for Arika and the Tetris company and all the licensing and stuff behind TGM. And I don't know all of the legal details behind that, but I know that for a long time it wasn't a problem at all. Like you could like stream TGM or something and it wasn't an issue at all. And then after it started getting a little bigger, after like all of the GDQ runs and stuff, where suddenly it was like a big popular thing, there were some new like guidelines about it. And then they started kind of taking legal action on people. And at one point they instituted some policies about like, yeah, you can stream our game, but you have to have like a scrolling banner in a 48-point font that says Tetris the Grandmaster is the property of the Tetris company, and I do not own the rights to this or whatever. Like you had to have like legal
Yeah.
disclaimers on your video at all times,
That's great.
and it was kind of absurd. And then my understanding, or my impression, I guess I should say, is that this new crackdown is, even if you have that, they're still taking down your content.
Yeah. And they're copyright strikes, right? It's not just like,
Yeah, it's copyright strikes. Like it can
yeah.
actually ruin your channel. Like it can, if you're monetized, it can demonetize your channel or remove your ability to download and back up your past content if you get enough of these. And they were just wholesale, like, yeah, there's a video, boom, boom, boom. And that's,
Right.
again,
Automated.
that's my impression of it. I don't know the details. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems very heavy-handed, and I don't understand it.
Yeah. And I remember there was some concern of, will this carry over to, stuff like the PS2 port of DOJ and stuff like that? Or is it like just limited to Tetris, or is this a company wide thing? Right now it sounds like it's just Tetris, but
I think it's just Tetris. I mean, the Tetris history and the Tetris licensing has always been a complicated subject.
hmm
And
yeah.
I don't know all the details behind this, but there's some very famous, like, high profile lawsuits in gaming history of like people who made Tetris games, and they were licensed Tetris games, but then they got sued by the people who own the Tetris IP because it wasn't
Yeah.
like true Tetris, quote unquote.
Yeah, I remember watching this documentary about it, and I think what happened is there's like a lot of confusion of who actually owned it. So people
Yeah.
were selling the license to people who actually didn't own it, and yeah, it's a
Yeah.
whole mess.
So Kevin would be an amazing person to ask about that. And if you have any interest in bringing him on for an episode, I know it's not necessarily like a shmup thing per se, but I think if you're curious about this, he would be more than willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's really interesting to me about the Tetris the Grandmaster saga recently is like a couple years ago, it was looking super super positive, and there was like all the momentum after GDQ, and then there was the location test where they brought out like a build of the Grandmaster 4, I think was what it was called. Like it wasn't even TGM game; it was just like the Grandmaster to an arcade in LA, and Kevin and Trap 15 and I and a bunch of other people from that community and the arcade community in general, we all came out and tried to play it, and it seemed like okay, like they're doing something new and something interesting, and then there's just silence, nothing happening.
Yeah.
So one thing that occurs to me that could be happening here is that maybe they're gearing up somehow for the launch of that new game. Like
Yeah.
maybe we'll see an announcement about like TGM4 happening, and all of this is some kind of legal precedent to like clear the slate. I wouldn't understand it. I don't know why they would choose this way to do it, but otherwise, I guess I just fail to see what this accomplishes for them other than making them look like a bunch of jerks.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people about this, and it's something about Japanese companies just eludes me as to what exactly their thought process is for a lot of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But there does seem to be this trend that to me anyway, that whenever they have something new coming out, they like scan the horizon and try and kill off all this other stuff that might compete with it or might,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, distract from it. Like AM2Rs out there, it's like, okay, well, we got Samus 2 coming out, so let's take that down.
Yeah.
Or it's like, with the ROM sites and stuff, maybe Nintendo's gonna bring out their virtual console service or something like that.
Well, I think that's
for the
actually
Switch.
what happened there.
Yeah.
They did it kind of right at the same time as they started rolling out the like NES Classic games on Switch or something.
Yeah. So it's like, no, you can't get these ROMs anywhere else now, so buy them on the Switch. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
yeah, the Japanese companies, I feel like their view on copyright is very strict, and they take that stuff extremely seriously to the point where even if it's maybe in their own brand's detriment, they'll still go after it anyway. So.
Can you feel life moving through your mind? Ooh, looks like it came back for more. Yeah. Can you feel time slipping down your spine? Ooh, you're trying to ignore. Yeah. But you can hardly swallow your fears and pain when you can't help but follow and puts you right back where you came. Live and learn, hanging on the edge of tomorrow. Live and learn from the works of yesterday. Live and learn. If you beg or if you borrow, live and learn. You may never find your way.
So what's been going on is this year I've been working on this index of trying to bring together a list of where you can find high-scoring replays for a bunch of games. And you can go down the index and like, oh, here's Fufufu's run, and then it links you to his video. So it just links you to these videos. I don't host the video.
Right.
So I've been doing that with a lot of these replays, and then some of them that I ended up doing with an arcade in Japan's like, no, you can't show these replays. They're part of our 15-hour stream that needs to stay there or whatever. So yeah. So, and there's a lot of super plays that are on Nico, and then Nico just drops the vids, and so those links go dead a lot. So
Okay.
so yeah, there's been a lot of that going on, and then. Kind of in that same vein, it's happening in 2019, but it was announced in 2018, the YouTube annotations leaving.
Yeah.
So that's been another huge challenge too, because you have videos like Pazzy's video, for example, that the annotations are like a big deal, and so losing them is losing a lot of content.
Or even the special demonstrations series that
Yes,
that Icarus
definitely.
put together. I mean, those are incredible resources, and they're entirely made with YouTube annotations.
Yeah. So that's another thing that... So what I've been doing is I've actually been contacting, and Jamers has too, contacting people being like, hey, try and back up these annotations. And I've gone so far as backing up videos, like capturing them with the annotations in them, just in case that the annotations disappear. We can replace them or return them or embed them in the video somehow. So the year for Shmup replays in 2018 has been kind of rough.
Yeah, that's bizarre. Although, interestingly, from what I hear, it's not just Shmup replays. It's
all annotations.
I'm very well, not even all annotations, but just like YouTube and like copyright striking and such in general. I've been hearing some vague echoes on Twitter and such about people weaponizing copyright strikes to attack like popular YouTube channels.
Yeah.
Or YouTube channels having copyright strikes against them from their own content. Like there was, I forget which channel it was, but like someone who produces their own music, and then their music would trigger a copyright strike against their own channel when they had their music available for purchase on like the iTunes store or something.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think in some ways it's not even just our community. It's something it's symptomatic of a larger problem with
Yeah.
YouTube and with the way that copyright is being enforced on the internet right now.
I actually have a really funny story about that happened to me. So it wasn't this year, but it was last year. I went back and played some Street Fighter 4 just for kicks. And I ended up having some pretty fun replays. And this was on my personal channel.
Mhm.
So I was like, you know how Street Fighter 4 has this built-in, into the game, there's this built-in thing that says, would you like to upload your replay to YouTube? So
Okay.
I was like, yeah, sure. So I connected it to my personal YouTube account, uploaded my replay to my personal YouTube account. My replay gets copyright struck for having Street Fighter
What?
music or something. So I got struck by Capcom from uploading the
What?
replay from the game. I was like, oh god. Yeah, so all my replays they're all muted because Capcom copyright struck their own replays.
That is okay.
So that is a whole nother level of
Yeah.
YouTube madness right there. Yeah, I didn't care because it's on my personal channel, but yeah, that would suck.
Yeah, I mean that just doesn't even make sense, right? Like why
Yeah,
would
it's
you
a
even have
built-in
this
game
feature if when you use it it doesn't work? Like you can't view the content. It copyright strikes you when you try to use it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean I don't know what's going on, but it's a thing that seems to be very pervasive right now, both inside and outside our community. And it's a bummer that
Yeah.
especially the YouTube annotations I think is something that's very important to this community and to the way that is most convenient to present the kind of information that you need when you're really studying a run.
Yeah.
I think that's a really a bummer that that's being removed. And I don't even know why annotations are being removed. Is there an explanation on that?
I think they're just trying to upgrade their whole interface. Like they're adding in all these new features and like they're trying to upgrade their interfacing a lot. Or if you're a YouTuber, the classic Creator Studio, and every time you go
Right.
to upload a video, it's like, no, don't use that, use this new thing. So I think it's them just trying to update their formatting and stuff. And they're like, these annotations, they're not used correctly. We don't like how they look or whatever, so they're getting rid of them. And in their mind, I'm sure in their studio, they're like, what? They're just links to other videos. You can just replace those easily, or they're just like pop-up ads. And they don't even think about the niche uses of the annotations like the Shmup community does, where we're creating basically a commentary track on top of the video and stuff.
Right. Well, and there's some other arcade replays like I think I'm really into the new Silent Scope, the Silent Scope Bone Eater, I think it is. The arcade like sniping game. And
Cool.
there's some replays of that it's it hasn't been translated to English, or like only parts of it have been translated to English because they didn't ever finish the translation. And so there's some replays where like uploaders will translate the whole game into English with annotations. And now I'm thinking like, oh crap, that's going to be gone, So
Yeah.
like maybe I should back that up now.
You definitely should. Because that's what I did with Pazzy's runs and with some other runs. I just contacted the people who owned the videos, like, are you backing these up? And most of them said, yeah. From what I've gathered, no one can get a hold of him, and it's going to be in 2 days now. So I was like, crap, I got to back these up just in case. So yeah, I got those backed up. Will it get worse in 2019? In some ways, probably. but
Right.
But hopefully we're going to figure out some workarounds, maybe embedding stuff into the videos rather than using annotations, and just some workarounds with YouTube in general.
Yeah, hopefully there's a light at the end of that tunnel.
Yeah. So for yourself, I thought it'd be fun for us to talk a little bit about some of our highlights of the year as far as, the games that come out, or just maybe even personal highlights of shmups for you. So
Sure.
I thought it'd be fun to start off with maybe some of our picks this year for the best shmup ports or the best shmup releases that are not original shmup games.
Right. I mean, honestly, I haven't been playing a ton of new stuff this year. Like I haven't even played Destiny myself yet. Like I don't own it yet, and which is hilarious to me because I love Ketsui. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's one of the shmups that I put the most time into, and it's a game that I'm pretty consistent at, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But the experience that I had playing it at Stunfest and the feedback that I've heard so far, I feel like as soon as I do pick that up, that's for sure going to be like the big deal.
Yeah, you'll have to tell me what you think of the Death Tiny mode in there, because I've been a fan of it. I know Iconoclast is definitely a fan of it,
Mhm.
considering how many hours he's dropped into that bad boy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to hear other people's thoughts on that mode specifically.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm most interested in just the classic, like, Ketsui port part of it.
Yeah, the arcade mode.
And if they have that arrange mode that they had at Stunfest, if that's still
Yep.
in the game, then
It's in
I
there.
would love that, because that was super fun. So
Yeah, the IKD mode.
Yeah.
That sounds really fun. Yeah, I got the chance to definitely play it. So I guess I could go through my picks of the Shmup ports of the year.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so I thought it'd be fun to make them a list. So at number 3, because our frothing demands I speak about this, I think I'm contractually obligated to talk about it.
Right.
Is the Ikaruga Switch port.
Yeah.
So I
have
rank that as number 3 though. That's not number 1.
Uh-huh.
So I remember, yeah, I can be a little hipstery about Ikaruga sometimes. Like, I love the game, but sometimes I criticize it more than other people do. Not the game itself, but like the ports of the game.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I'm the same way.
I mean, when you port the game 5 times, I feel like by the 5th port or whatever, you should start adding in some features rather than just
Right.
making it the same port over and over.
Right. Or worse, taking stuff away.
Or taking stuff away. Yeah, that sucks. So the Ikaruga Switch port, I got it. I played it quite a bit. It has a lot of good points. So here are some good points about it. So I did a little experiment where I went through and lag tested a bunch of Shmup Switch ports.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the ones that came in were the lowest. I'll talk about the next one later, but Ikaruga came in as one of the lowest input lags Shmup ports on the Switch. So it's tied. So it is technically the lowest input lag.
Now,
So that's really cool.
when you did this testing,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a little bit of a tangent, but some of my friends are really into Smash right now, and they were telling me that the input lag on the Switch actually differs depending on what controller you're using. Is that
That is correct.
true?
Yes, that is 100% accurate. So it's funny. Yeah, I went deep into this. So the way the Switch works is the lowest input lag method on it is the Switch Pro controller
The wireless Pro controller.
in wireless mode
Right.
because it just directly interfaces with the Switch. So what I did was I pad hacked a Switch Pro controller to work with I put it in my arcade stick and pad hacked it.
Oh, sweet.
And wired up a light to it. Yeah, I went full mode on this. I take this I go a little crazy about input lag testing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so what I did for the listeners was I took a Switch Pro controller, I pad hacked it, which is a bitch because some of the solder points are easy to get to, others are complete pain in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
So I pad hacked it. I wired up a light and I recorded it with a 60 FPS camera.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I hit the input, the light turns on and then I can watch on screen. And I used it on a CRT actually. I have a interesting way to connect it to a CRT. So I tried to cut out any display lag.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Ikaruga port, I feel like I'm not super confident on the numbers because I feel like my camera it was supposed to be hitting 60 FPS, but when I did these tests, it was hitting like 45.
Uh-oh.
So, but they're all the same. So at least
Right.
I'm going to redo it with the 60 FPS camera to get the exact frame number,
Uh-huh.
but I can at least tell you how they compare to each other because it was the same setup for each.
Sure.
So Ikaruga and Danmaku Unlimited 3 were the lowest ones. And on my test, they came out at 2 frames, but they're probably more like 3 frames,
Okay.
probably.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, still really solid,
Yeah.
especially compared to some of the other ports, I'll tell you that much. So,
Right.
yeah, it's a very responsive port.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, I've played it myself, and it feels really responsive and really good.
Yes, very, very well done there.
Yeah.
So it's low input lag, that's good. It has a level select, which is nice, except it has this really annoying thing about it where after you play the level select, it kicks you back to the main menu, and you have
Yes.
to go back through the main menu. That drives me insane.
Yes. I also am not a fan.
Yeah, they should have just had that restart function in there. I was playing it. It looked really solid performance-wise.
Mhm.
Not super surprising being a Dreamcast game,
Mm-hmm.
but you can always botch that.
Although, I mean, interestingly, Dreamcast has historically been one of the harder consoles to emulate.
Yeah, true.
So I think it's interesting that Ikaruga consistently runs well, and that it's been ported to so many different platforms. Like, something about the code base must just be very
Yeah,
very
really.
easily portable.
Yeah, definitely, yeah, because like emulating certain Dreamcast games is a complete nightmare. Like
Yeah.
Virtua Fighter 3 TB, man, that thing is a pain in the butt to emulate. So, yeah. It had online leaderboards, I believe.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. So
Yes.
that's really cool.
Uh-huh.
It has a replay function if I'm not mistaken, right?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. So
and
that's cool.
I think it's even required to upload replays above a certain point.
Yeah, and if you change the settings, it gets mad and says we won't do a replay of this if you change the setting. I can't remember
Right.
what setting it was.
Right.
Yeah,
Replays will not be saved. The game isn't on default settings or something.
yeah, which is good.
Uh-huh.
So
I mean, it's a little heavy-handed because I think sometimes there are really fun ways to play games on non-default settings.
yeah,
But
definitely.
for the purposes of maintaining like a good, clean leaderboard and a competitive environment for the game, then yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. My biggest concern with it really was that there was no training mode per se. There was the level select, but like you said, you're getting kicked out to the menu every time you do it.
Right.
And it's just level select. You can't pick mid-boss or you can't pick mid-stage or boss only and stuff like
Why
that.
has no version of Ikaruga except the GameCube port included conquest mode? Because that was was so good. It was so good.
I was about to say, yeah, why not bring over conquest mode, especially since the GameCube version is on a Nintendo console, right? So you'd think, the Nintendo console ports would at least have some consistency with their content. So, yeah, that's definitely a bummer.
Yeah.
So, because those reasons, I put it at number 3.
Mhm.
But definitely still top 3. That's a great port.
Mhm.
Definitely worth your money for sure. So number 2 for me was Danmaku Unlimited 3. This might be because a little bit biased because I actually like this game a lot. So it's one of my favorites. But it also had really low input lag, had really rock solid performance, which is impressive because if you try and run this game on a mediocre PC, it challenges it. So yeah, Danmaku Unlimited 3 looks great on the Switch, plays really well. One big reason why I say, though, that I put this as number 2 port is I think it's a smart idea more indie devs should definitely look into, is putting their shmups on the Switch. Because when Danmaku Unlimited 3 came to Switch, there was all this press coverage for the game.
Yeah.
I can't remember all the different outlets, but it got way more attention than it did on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really good thing because it's a great indie game, and there are definitely some other indie shmups, I think, that deserve that attention as well. And I would really like to see them, follow that example of coming to the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's the hot platform. And I think I heard something about too, like indie games sell way better on the Switch than they do on Steam in a lot of cases. Not all, but in a lot of cases, like
I absolutely believe that. Steam viability as a indie platform is really astonishingly low right now for a whole lot of reasons.
Yeah, and especially too, just the pure lost in the shuffle factor.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, that's the big one. It's just discoverability. It's like there's just so many games on Steam. And how do you make a game that leaves an impression in that market?
Yeah, and I know for me as a Switch owner too, I've picked up some indie games on the Switch that I wouldn't have picked up on Steam for sure. Just because hey, here it is. It's on a handheld. I love handheld, so yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I should mention too that the Ikaruga port as well as Danmaku 3, you can play them vertically on the Switch, which is really cool. I do that all the time.
Yeah, so this leads into something that I kind of want to bring up when you're encouraging shmups on Switch. I think there's some really good and some really bad aspects of Switch for shmups and for arcade games in general.
Yeah, we should talk about that.
Should we do that now or after you finish your top 3?
Isn't a Switch game, so that's fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I mean, there's some new. First of all, the fact that the console can easily go into vertical, it's not really built for that, but there's some peripherals and such, like the flip grip just came out, and so far I've really enjoyed mine.
I got one as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it seems like just a very well-designed product. Like it does one thing, but it does it well.
I'm super satisfied with how it works.
Mm-hmm. And then the problems, though, that I have with Switch they're more on the input side.
Yeah.
The D-pad isn't. With some modding, I did a shell swap on my Switch where I replaced the Joy-Con left shell with a D-pad shell, and that improves it a lot. I mean, I think actually that's one of the best D-pads I've ever used once it's actually a D-pad. But even then, it's in an awkward place, and it's not super comfortable to hold or to use it to play arcade-style games where you're primarily using the D-pad.
Yeah. That's very true.
I think that the console, like, there's so much promise as something that is like portable and good enough for a lot of arcade style games and can be in vertical mode for shmups. There's like 9 out of 10 boxes are ticked, but if I could just have like a Joy-Con with the D-pad where the left stick is
Yes,
and an actual D-pad, it would be so much better.
definitely. And that's funny because one of my favorite peripherals for the Switch that came out, I use it every day when I play the Switch, is the Hori Joy-Con.
Uh-huh. The one with the D-pad?
Yes, because the D-pad on that bad boy is really good. It's actually the same one as they use in the Fighting Commander 4.
Oh, I have one of those.
Yeah, so it's the same. It's a premium D-pad, and it's actually really great to play with.
Mhm.
But it's Achilles' heel.
Is it wired only, right?
It's wired only, which
Yeah.
means you cannot use it with the
The
flip grip.
Yeah.
So that's painful. And I also think too, like you said, the D-pad could benefit from being higher up.
Mhm.
So the nice thing though about the Switch is this can be solved. Where other handhelds you can't solve it, the Switch you can, because you can create a Joy-Con that does that because
Right.
the Joy-Cons can be swapped out. So someone needs to get on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the key limiting factor with that is just going to be like the connectivity, right? It has to be wireless.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think it's super interesting because there's so much potential for it to be actually, I think, an amazing platform for portable arcade games and especially for portable shmups.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's enough like market viability for a dedicated like wireless D-pad only Joy-Con.
Right.
And the other thing for me too is that I have somewhat larger hands, and so I actually like having the Switch without some kind of like an external grip to kind of beef up the size of the Joy-Cons
Yeah.
is not super comfortable for me for a prolonged period of time. So that's another thing. But I've struggled with that with a lot of consoles. Like I used to have a lot of issues with like the PSP for that, for example.
Yeah, I definitely know what you're saying. Like if I play for a long time, it's like my wrist, not my wrist, but like the tendons in my hand start to get sore just from like gripping it, trying to hold it.
Yeah, well, for me, it's like my pinkies and my like my ring finger kind of like wrapping around underneath it gets a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. As far as handhelds though, because I'm a pretty big handheld enthusiast,
Yeah.
and so I've tried all kinds of funky ways to play shmups on other handhelds.
Oh, it's by far the best.
By far, yes.
And even just as a general purpose gaming handheld or general purpose gaming console, I think it's really incredible. Like it's probably like
Yeah.
the best console experience as a whole that I have had ever. I think would be not an exaggeration.
I'm definitely a huge fan of it too, and I know it's kind of hard these days to be a huge fan of it because everyone's a huge fan of it, but
Right.
there's just so many things they did right with that console.
Yeah.
Because I had a Wii U before it. My poor Wii U. I played it like I played out of duty, but that's about it because running that bad boy is it's just a chore. Everything about that console's a chore. And the Switch is really cool because I travel back and forth around town a lot,
Mhm.
like even in my daily life. And I can lug my laptop back and forth and stuff, but taking the Switch back and forth from my parents' house to my house to my friend's house, like
Right.
it's so convenient.
It's great.
So this is actually a good time to introduce another topic with the Switch that I definitely want to talk about.
This is your whole like emulation CFW stuff, right? Because I've seen you tweeting about that.
Definitely. So earlier this year, but I came across something that I think other people have realized, but not a lot of people are talking about, is that RetroArch, with using the Final Burn Alpha core, you can use that to create lag reduction in a lot of shmups
Mhm.
through emulation. And so, yeah, there's a whole nother topic there. But the cool thing is you can do that on the Switch too. So you can play Dodonpachi on your Switch with really low input latency. You can play Ketsui on your Switch with really low input latency. And it's just been improving more and more through the custom firmware to the point where it's basically so close to PC levels of performance. Ketsui, not so much. Dodonpachi, yes, because that's a little easier to emulate.
Mhm.
So it's not as good as the PC, because the Switch still can't keep up with certain games, but there's a lot of games there on there that you can play really well through the custom firmware RetroArch. But what's going on is that Nintendo is not happy about this whatsoever.
Right.
And so it's really hard for me to recommend it to my fellow Switch owners. It's not like the old days with the DS and 3DS where you had to work to get banned.
Right.
No. On the Switch, it's very, very easy to get banned if you make a mistake. And once you're banned, your console is super banned, which means, okay, so this could happen to a lot of people. Let's say you own all these Switch games on the eShop, but you don't have a lot of space on your Switch, so you like delete them. If your console gets super banned, you cannot re-download them. That is it. So you could potentially lose hundreds of dollars
So it's locking
of already purchased content.
Like it's locking your account also.
Well, it's locking it locks your system. So if you bought another Switch, you could get that content back.
Okay.
But you'd have to buy another Switch, I guess. But
Right.
Right. So I guess if you own two Switches, no problems. Just run the other one offline all the time and then use your normal one. But yeah. No, they don't lock down your account, but they lock down anything happening on that Switch ever, like online wise. It just says no, you can't do anything. Can't update stuff, can't do anything.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's a harsh punishment for sure, especially since, it's still a really active system and there's stuff coming to the Switch. To get around that, you'd have to buy everything on a cartridge.
Yeah.
And then a lot of indie games you just couldn't get because they're digital only. So
yeah, that's kind of funny. Like on the one hand, it's such a good console for indie releases, and there's so many good indie games, including indie shmups, that are coming out on it. And on the other hand, it's amazing for emulation and emulating shmups. But if you do that, you lose access to like you pick one. You can't do both.
Yes, you can only pick one because it is possible to try and do both. But man, you got to be like surgical with your Wi-Fi and everything to make sure. And I honestly feel like at some point it'll catch you. Somehow, some way it'll catch you. So like through a firmware update, I don't know. Plus, as you update it, you're battling with Nintendo trying to prevent you from being able to access your emulators and stuff anyway. So
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I was super into custom firmware on the PSP. Like that up until maybe a year and a half ago, I was still using my modded PSP all the time.
Definitely.
For shmup emulation, for like Game Boy Advance emulation, PS1 emulation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just sticking all my PSP games onto one memory card, so I didn't have to lug everything around. Like it was such a good console once you got it with the custom firmware. So I on the one hand, I'm a huge proponent of custom firmware, and on the other, I'm also really enjoying the way that the Switch default user experience works, and the way that the online store works for that. So I don't see myself as doing that anytime soon, but I think eventually that'll absolutely be the way to go.
Yeah. Segue to talk about my number one pick, which we already talked about, which is really obvious, which is Ketsui Death Tiny. And then my number one bummer or disappointment of the year for Shmup ports, and that is the zero div ports of the Psycho games. And here's why. So they're a mixed bag. Some of them are actually pretty solid input lag wise, like Gunbird and Gunbird 2. I don't remember another one. Yeah, those aren't too bad. But Strikers 2, the lag on that thing is insane. It's so high you can actually visually see it. So, and when I did my test, it was something like 6 frames, but that's on my lower test, so it's probably more like 7 or 8 frames. The game is just ridiculously high input lag, that port, bad. Which is unfortunate. So I was bummed about that because Strikers 2 is one of my favorite games, and I was really looking forward to playing it on the Switch. So that was my biggest disappointment. Did you have any pick for biggest shmup disappointment of the year?
I can't say that I've played a lot of new stuff in the last year. So a lot of it is, either games that I already knew and was already kind of keeping up with, or I kind of knew were going to be good, like the Ketsui M2 port.
Yeah.
Biggest disappointment of the year. Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that one. I'm sorry.
As far as shmup releases, it's been a really solid year, so
yeah,
you have to be kind of nitpicky like myself to even come up with one, to be honest. I had a really funny one too that I have to point out. It's not a shmup, but it's an arcade game. So the Metal Slug 2 port on the Switch is a faithful port, but the problem is that the arcade version of Metal Slug 2 is a horrible nightmare.
Oh, is it not the? It's not the corrected version.
It's not the corrected version. It's not the anthology version. It's the straight up crap. So steer clear of that because you're gonna be playing slow down hell on that port. So
All
I
right.
thought, what were they thinking with that? Why didn't they use the anthology version for the?
Because it's a Metal
2?
Slug 2 port. I mean, clearly you just used the normal arcade version, right?
Yeah,
All right.
I was disappointed in that because I actually like the corrected version of Metal Slug 2 a lot.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah, it's really fun. I might
Uh,
like it a little more than X, to be honest, when you get rid of the slowdown.
I can't remember enough of what the differences are, to be completely honest. It's been a while since I've played those games, but I
It's like a remix of it, I would say. Like the stages are pretty similar, but X has different enemy types here and there.
right. I
Different enemy
remember
patterns.
like vaguely what the differences are. I just don't remember specifically how I would compare them one to one.
Yeah. Now you'd have to play a lot of Metal Slug 2 and X to really for it to really stand out to you.
I used to play a fair bit of X and a lot of 3. I like 3 a lot.
Yeah, 3 solid.
I think I've also become one of the people who's not a huge fan of 3 just because it's like so much game.
Yeah, I agree there. Because I was doing a thing where I was going through and getting 1cc's of all this Metal Slug games.
Oh, cool.
And I did 1, 2, and 3. Or 1, 2, and X. X is hard. X was the hardest one I got.
Yeah, X is hard.
And then 3, I was like, God, it's just so much game.
It's just like, nope.
Yeah, I'm going to get it. But yeah, it's a lot of game. And there's all these different sections. And then it's cool how it has some shmup sections.
Yeah, it's a really ambitious game. And there's just a lot of like cool stuff in there. Like I don't have a problem with it being as big as it is, except when it comes to thinking about playing it for clear or for score. Then it's like,
yeah, it's a lot to undertake, especially that zombie level. That is just the most obnoxious level in Metal Slug history, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun the first few times, but then it's not.
Oh, the zombie level, damn it.
Yeah.
So how about for your personal shmup of the year? As far as like what shmup, it didn't have to come out this year, but what shmup did you play the most this year or were the most interested in this year?
Esprade.
Nice.
I still don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it. You know, Esprade.
You're asking the wrong guy because I've mispronounced it on this podcast like 8 times. So
I know
I cover all bases.
Right. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate Death Tiny. It's good. I think the full version of the name is ESP like Raging Deicide, which is an awesome title, by the way.
Killer title.
I love the like expanded titles for some of these games. Like the full Ketsui title, I think the full translation is like Determination breaking through the bonds of hell.
Yeah, I love that.
So good. But however you pronounce it, I've been playing that game a lot, and I've just really had a lot of fun with it. It's not a perfect game, and I think if I were ever to try to play it for score, I would lose interest in it really fast.
Yes, you would.
But just for clear, it's just really fun, and
I agree.
There's some really neat things in there. You know, aesthetically, I think it might be one of my favorite cave games, just period. Because the aesthetic is so unique to that game and to that kind of time period. You know, like that, it really feels like the whole Akira.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Cyberpunk, like early cyberpunk
90s. Yeah. I believe there's even like a boss that's straight up out of Ghost in the Shell. The tank with the cloaking device on it.
Yeah,
that is just straight up Ghost in the Shell right there.
Totally looks like a Ghost in the Shell enemy. Yeah. Or a tank or something. Yeah. And then there's so many things that are so iconic to that game, like the in between stage transition. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, the newspaper and stuff. That's so cool.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so cyberpunk. That's what you could definitely say about the game. Is it has this really awesome. I'm a big fan too. So.
And it's just stylish. It's just like it just feels so stylish all over the place. And then the final boss, like Ms. Gara or Ms. Gara.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know how to pronounce this, but so much fun. Like the patterns are so crazy and
yeah,
just a really fun clear. So I had a lot of fun with that. I was playing it off and on, kind of all year. You know, I was streaming that a little bit earlier in the year, and then occasionally playing credit to it after I got home from work. And then I played it at the 2 meets that I went to in the last month or so, and I finally got that clear just last week. So
Nice.
technically not in 2018, but like in the first week of 2019. So that
It
was kind of a
counts.
2018 game for me, and that was really fun.
I played it a little bit last year. It was around Stunfest, actually. I was supposed to be playing more Battle Greg, and I was playing Esperade. I was like, I'm such a cave fan. I can't escape these games.
Yeah,
But
yeah, same.
yeah, it was so much fun. Yeah, I really like how, I guess I could talk about my favorite parts of the game. Definitely the boss, the mech boss. I think it's in the subway. I can't remember. Is that
Oh,
stage 4, the subway?
yeah, the boss that kind of, like, it comes down from below.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one of my favorite boss fights in shmups. I just love fighting that mech boss for some reason.
Yeah,
Just the
it's fun.
patterns on it. It's
It's
really
got good
fun.
patterns.
Now I kind of want to go back and play the purple shooting one. I can't remember her name or his name. The one with the really long like assassin name. I can't remember what character is that.
Player characters, I think, Yusuke, JB5th, and I can't remember the girl's name.
JB5th. That's who I was thinking of.
JB5th was who I cleared with. Like, yeah, everyone tells me he's awful, but I'm like, you know what? He's who I have fun playing. I'm gonna play him.
Yeah, I was playing the default one a lot, but I want to go back and play the JB5th for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely a cool game, and now it's gonna be coming out for M2's releasing it, aren't they? So
Oh, that's right. I actually completely forgot about that. Like, my interest in
Yeah.
it was completely unrelated to that. I had forgotten about that completely. That's awesome.
yeah.
Okay.
And my big hope is that they have an arranged mode for it because, the big problem with Esperade, I was indexing some videos. Oh my god,
boss milking?
the boss milking is nutballs in that game. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping they release an arranged mode that kind of, removes milking and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
it's still kind of faithful to the original gameplay. That would be cool.
I think if you just remove the boss milking, it would already be like a much more interesting game, because
Yeah,
the scoring
definitely.
that exists there, there's already some depth to it, and it's already kind of a nice system once you get into a rhythm with it. So yeah, that's super cool. I'm looking forward to that now.
So my game of the year, to no surprise, is Dodonpachi.
Mm-hmm.
I played that God knows how many hours now. I just grinded the crap out of that game. And I actually, there's a funny story. So earlier in the year, I was just playing. That's the shmup that got me into shmups. So I was like, I need to go back to Dodonpachi and get a kind of okay score in the game. So I made a goal earlier in the year to get 80 mil. And I ended up getting it. And then I was like, and I got it in stage 2, 3, 2, 4. No, the end of, 2, 4. At the beginning of 2.5 is where I died.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm very close to a 2-wall in this game. All I need to do is clear stage 2.5, 2.6, and Hibachi, and I'll have it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking about this on my Discord, and Plasmo says to me, he's like, well, that's like a massive, massive undertaking. I was like, yeah, I bet I could do it by Christmas. And this was like in June or July or something.
Right.
So he's like, oh, if you can do it before Christmas, I'll give you $100.
Oh no.
And little did I know what I had gotten myself into, because because 2.5, 2.6, and Hibachi are like a whole separate game beyond the first. So, but I grinded and grinded, and I've gotten, by the end of the year, I couldn't get the 2-all. I gave it my best. I got to Final Form Hibachi, but I didn't get the 2-all.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm closing in now, so I should be getting it soonish. So
Nice.
But yeah, I've played that. That was definitely my game of 2018. Good old DDP.
It's funny. I have such an awful relationship with like original DDP. Like, I love DOJ, but I had a much harder time getting a 1-all of DDP than I did getting a 1-all of DOJ.
It's harder in different ways and easier in different ways.
Right. That's kind of what I hear from people.
Yeah, it's a fun game though. I really like it.
Yeah. No, it's a really good game. And congratulations to you on taking it so far. That's really awesome.
Yeah. So actually, speaking of that, let's talk about our goals for next year or this year.
Okay.
As far as shmups.
Yeah, 2019.
So what are your 2019 shmup goals?
I say this every year, but I really want to come back to Ketsui.
This is the year to do it, my man.
I mean, I've made a lot of really big steps with that game. I think my furthest runs are like middle or end of 2-3 Omote.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to like 2-3 Vinogradov a few times. I've gotten to the 2-3 boss a couple times. I've gotten to 2-4 opening once. I've almost made Ura. There was one run where I was, I think, like 117 million, no misses, no bombs, all the way
Yeah.
until Evacueer, and then I died.
Don't you have to, just to clarify, don't you have to no miss, no bomb the whole loop to get to Ura? Or
Yeah, so the Ura loop
yeah,
is no miss, no bomb, and over 120 million points in the first loop.
yeah, you got
Although
to be going crazy to get.
the
Yeah,
120 million points thing is like, if you're at a point where you're no miss, no bombing the first loop, you probably have it routed well enough that you're getting that score anyways.
yeah,
Both
yeah.
from the clear bonuses for no miss, no bombing, and from playing, well.
Staying alive.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it is a very demanding requirement. So, and yeah, I mean, it's a game that I really love, and I would really love to be able to get back to and play more seriously and get that Omote clear and maybe make it into Ura. So yeah, maybe I'll go for that. I don't know.
That's awesome. Is it kind of a situation where like 2-3 to the clear in Omote is like this massive undertaking, or is it not that bad considering there's no hibachi or anything like that?
Well, there's Doom.
In Omote?
Oh no, not in Omote. You're right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's I don't know because I haven't done it. I mean, I've done some practice of the 2-4, 2-5 stages. It's aggressive. I mean, there's a lot going on. For me, I think the biggest thing is just like, I don't really have a route for the second loop yet. So making it
Yeah.
to 2-3 is pretty much just like seat of my pants, like playing
I
basically
know that feeling.
blind and just trying to deal with all the stuff the game's throwing at me. And that is, it's a functional way to play the game, but it makes it much harder to make consistent progress in the loop because of all of the revenge bullets that get thrown out on the screen every
Yeah.
time you kill something. So for me, I think the big step for that would be just to really sit down and route the game, which is something that I always have a lot of resistance to doing, and yet is like the most important thing.
It's like when you write a paper in school and you're supposed to create an outline, but you never do. And then the one time you do create an outline, you're like, yeah, this was helpful. That's how is it kind of like that for you?
For writing, no, but for shmups, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I had the same thing with the second loop of DDP, where for a long time I was just like, I'm going to fly my first loop routes and just try and stay alive. And then one day I was like, okay, this is not cutting it. I need to actually reroute,
Right.
really study this. So what's your process like of outlining a run exactly?
Oh man, and I'm not a good person to ask about this because I don't.
That's why I want to ask you about it.
Yeah, I guess well, part of the problem for me is I think a lot of the games that I'm good at are games where there's more of an improvisational element to the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm well known for being pretty good with Ibarra, and that's like it's very much like a Yugawa style game with a lot of randomization. And I'm also like, for a long time I was pushing pork pretty hard. And one of my big like disappointments, I guess, of 2018 is like my 360 died. So I can't.
Damn. Red ring?
It's something. I don't even know. But yeah, it seems to be red ringing, but it's a slim, so it's like I didn't know they did that.
Which version of the slim?
I don't remember. It's like the Japanese non-elite slim, like the one with the smaller hard drive.
Arcade? The arcade one?
I
It's called like
think so.
Slim Arcade or something, yeah.
It's the one that had like the built-in like 8 gigs of memory or something.
Yeah, that's it. I think it's called Arcade.
Okay. Then yeah, it's that one.
That's rough.
Yeah, so I used to play a lot of Muchi Muchi Pork, and I was getting to like 2-4, 2-5 in Muchi Muchi Pork, and then just kind of dropped off because I wasn't able to practice that game anymore. So that was a bummer. But yeah, those games are much more like improvisational, I guess. Like, yeah, you can still route them and you can still have a good idea of like, okay, things are coming and I need to be in this position or whatever. But it's not the same way that you would route something like Doronpachi or
right.
or Ketsui, where it's very much like you kind of need to be here at this time always, and it's always going to be the same if you're the same.
Yeah, it's interesting because Doronpachi is a completely polar opposite of that game style, just from my experience playing the second loop now. It's like the interesting thing about the second loop in Doronpachi is if your timing for your routing is correct, the dodging is actually pretty easy in all the stages. Like, there's not a lot of really hard dodging, but if your timing is even slightly off, the game will murder you. Like,
Right.
it's just like so strict about your timing and routing. Like, improvisation in the second loop is like, that's kind of a skill of mine too. But there's been times where like I improvise and dodge some ridiculous shit I shouldn't be dodging.
Mm-hmm.
And in other shmups, it'd be like, okay, you did it, it's cool. But Donpachi's like, no, 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 no. And it just keeps throwing shit at you till you die. Like,
Right. Right. Or you have to bomb to try to reset, but then the act of bombing like throws you off your route.
Yeah, exactly. I have to like, yeah, I was actually saying that the other day where there are times where if I bomb, but if I bomb in the wrong spot, I just have to bomb again to get back in the same spot. So,
oh yeah, it's a big feel for me. It's like the games that I do sort of route, if I like make a mistake, then it really throws me out of it. So one of my,
me too.
I guess like my biggest personal achievement of 2018 was finally getting the Ikaruga normal mode clear. And that was a game where I routed it much more than I'd routed other games. And there was still a lot of like improvisational BS in my clear run.
Right.
But you know, that's the kind of game where it's like, if I'm on route, I feel great and everything's good and I know where I'm going and I know what I'm doing. And then if I make like one mistake, everything is totally screwed.
It just goes to hell.
Yeah. Especially, you know, if it's the wrong time, like if it's right in the middle of the opening of stage 4 or something, just like, oh no,
it's over. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
no, I've struggled with that a lot too. So
when I was working on Ketsui more, I was watching a lot of replays and a few different kinds of replays. You know, on the one hand, I was watching stuff like very high level Ura replays, like Mr. Monkey Man's run that was on YouTube. That's a great reference for me. Or there were a couple runs, not from SPS, I don't think, but from other like Japanese players who were doing Ura that I was looking at. And then what I was realizing is that those are maybe taking a few too many risks for what I'm trying to do right now, which is just the Omote clear. And so then I started switching to some, like, I don't remember the name of the player, but I was talking to Bananamatic about it, and he linked me to this player on Nico, who was doing Omote runs, but just like very consistent strategies. Like he wasn't taking as many risks in the loop because he was just more interested in like getting a consistent clear and then getting a lot of clear bonus. And so I was looking at that a lot. And I think what I tend to do when I'm trying to route a game is I look at replays, you know, I'll watch like the first stage of that replay 4 or 5 times in a row, and then I'll kind of like pick a part of it, you know, maybe like the first 30 seconds or something, and I'll just try to do that. And then when I feel like I'm doing that well, then I'll pick the next, you know, 30 seconds or something, and just kind of progressively go through it. I don't usually use save states, although sometimes I do. For me, I think somehow I'm learning better if I play the whole stage. But sometimes there's a very like tricky section where I'll use save states for. So like in Ketsui, the stage 5 opening and the Golden Bat ER enemy at the very beginning of stage 5, like that big plane that comes in, and
yes, I know that you're talking about.
That guy, man, that was a big save state for me when I was trying to get more consistent with Ketsui. Just a lot of just running that over and over and over and over again. Not even really trying to score it necessarily, just trying to get to a point where it was like, okay, I can consistently do this without dying. Or the section where the stage goes backwards down through the tunnel, like that was another one where I was like, yep, safe stating here. I just gotta practice this. So
yeah, I think that's an excellent way of doing it for sure. I did a similar thing with the second loop of Dodonpachi where there's certain sections. There's this one that I call the Hall of Hell. It's in stage 5. There's this part where there's these bunkers, and then there's all these popcorn type-ish enemies that flank you, and there's tanks going on. It's just the game throws everything at you all at once, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that's like the save state I always go to and practice. Like when I'm practicing, I just save state there and practice it for like 30 minutes and then work on other stuff just because it's such an intense section of gameplay. So
right. What are your goals for the next year?
Awesome. Well, 2019 is going to be an ambitious year for me. I don't know why, but I'm feeling especially inspired this year. So the first one that has to be done, no
DDP?
matter what, is getting that 2-all in DDP. I don't care what happens to me. I go bankrupt. live on the streets. I need to get that need to get that 2-all.
Right.
I put way too much time and work into it, and I'm so close.
Do it.
So that's
Do it.
Yeah. I feel that's funny. I started streaming my 2-all, my DDP 2-alls and stuff, and I was like, oh, I feel it's mostly to document my gameplay because it is not kind to the viewer. That is for sure. It's like the most grind festy type stream you'll ever see. It's just me like safe stating and like,
Right.
yeah, these streams are just me grinding the game for hours. So
Mhm.
mostly just to document my progress. But yeah, so that's the first one that has to be done. And then after that, I felt like I've put so much time and work into DDP, and I feel like to play the game, even for survival, you have to memorize it so thoroughly. I would feel weird just getting the 2-all and quitting.
Right.
So I'm going to get I'm going for a 350 mil, which I think is totally doable.
Okay.
I think I could get more if I grinded for it, but
you're at what, 90 right now?
yeah, I actually 90, but that was like my run is the most degenerate run score-wise. Like I'm doing everything you're not supposed to do,
Okay.
but it improves my survival consistency.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so if I played my normal round, like if I sat down today, I probably could get 200 mil.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
If
Yeah.
I really was like, okay, let's play this for score.
Yeah.
But
Well, that sounds like a really cool goal then.
yeah, so after I get the 2-all, I'm going to go for 350 mil, which would be... So the funny thing about Dodonpachi's scores is there's this huge gap. There's like the Jamers, the Banana-matic scores of like 600 mil, 550 mil. And then there's the rest of the scores that are kind of like 150-ish mil. So my score would be like right in the middle, where it's like, I'm not top tier, but I'm above everyone else. So that's what I'm going for. So, and then I'm just taking a break. Eventually I will go for like the 600 mil, but I can't do it this year. Like,
Right.
I can't grind DDP another year in a row. My
Right.
head would explode.
Yeah.
Plus, I want to play other games.
Yeah.
After I get that score, I'm going to work on some other ones. Just for fun on the side, I'm going to try and get a true mode clear in Danmaku Unlimited 3, which shouldn't
Okay.
be too bad. So
Yeah, I haven't played that game, so I don't really understand the significance of that. What's the true mode compared to the normal mode?
So there's two different... It's weird because there's two different types of game arrangements, I guess. There's spirit mode, and then there's graze mode, I think it is. So spirit mode is like the easier mode because whenever you kill an enemy, their bullets cancel out.
Mhm.
So the true mode is the hardest difficulty of that mode. So it's still easier than something like Dodonpachi or something like that, but it's like still pretty challenging too. So it's pretty fun. And then I'm gonna maybe go for a clear of Grega with the golden bat.
Yeah, Butter Greg.
Yeah, because I play quite a bit of Grega. Like, Grega's kind of like my cool-off game after I grind Dodonpachi and all these other cave games for a while. I play a little Grega. So I've gotten pretty familiar with it, and I feel like I've kind of ended up playing the Golden Bat. I know isn't that one of the easier ships to clear with?
That's what I've heard. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what I've cleared with. So
But I enjoy playing the ship a lot, so
yeah, it's
I'm going to go for
really
that.
fun. That's a really good clear. How far are you in that game right now?
My Garega is like, if I just sat down and played it now, I definitely can get to, what is it? It's I always get confused on the stages. Stage 6 is the one where it starts to really ramp up and you're like in the military factory and stuff, right?
Yeah, stage 6 is like with the big turret wall and Junkie Monkey.
The turret wall is where I always end, pretty much. It's like Mark in the turret wall is where like my good credits kind of end. But
That's most people's credits, yeah. that's a hard part of that game.
And then I also want to. That's funny you talk about Ketsui Mote clear because that's the one I want to work on too. So
Oh, cool.
I don't know if I'll get it by the end of the year, but I want to start digging into the game and
Yeah, how are you in that game right now?
pretty awful to be honest.
Oh.
Like pretty average, I guess, compared to how I play in other games. It's like probably my worst one, but it's just because I'm really unfamiliar with it. I only picked it up this year.
Okay.
I get to like stage 5.
Yeah, that's kind of what I noticed with that game is when I first played it, I was making stage 4, stage 5, and then just tanking.
Yep.
And
You just get hit by the walls of enemies.
I think it's a game where you can make a lot of progress pretty fast. And I got my 1-alls pretty quick in that game. Developing consistency at it is the thing that I struggle with the most. You know, I'm pretty when I have a good run at Ketsui, I feel like I have a good run at Ketsui. Like I feel good, but I'm not super consistent with that game. So maybe your experience will be different, and I hope that it is. But yeah, I mean, if you're making it to stage 5, you're definitely going to be able to like get into the loop by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And if you're already like able to get all the way to the end of DDP, like if you're getting to Hibachi and stuff, then you're probably coming at it from much more experience than I have. So
yeah, it'll be fun. It'd be fun if we both end up going for the emote clear around the same time, so we could
yeah, that'd be pretty
go
cool.
back and forth of like, okay, what the hell are you doing here? What are you doing here? Because
right,
I actually have this really cool sub channel in my Discord just for Donanpachi, and so like, there's quite a few of us in there playing Donanpachi, and we talk about strategies and stuff.
Oh, that's really nice.
There could be a Ketsui one in 2019. I can make a Ketsui channel in there.
All right, yeah, it's the year of Ketsui, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, awesome, man. It's been great talking to you. I've had a lot of fun. Any other topics you want to cover before we close out?
I don't know. I think this is pretty good. I guess like the usual, shooting game never die. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and this has been really fun.
No problem, man.